Hey, how's it going, Fan Nation? Welcome to the wrap. Glad you're here. It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. One crazy weekend. My name's Denny Fox, National Tournament Director, and with me, I have Jeremy Olson. He's our North Dakota Tournament Director. Jeremy, how's it going over there?
Oh, man, it is going awesome over here. We had a great tournament in Devil's Lake, and I think we exceeded expectations is the way to explain our tournament this weekend. But we only had one. You had two tournaments on Leech Lake. How was that, Denny?
It was Leech Lake squared, baby. We started on Saturday, ended on Sunday, matched up with, and them boys were catching fish, Jeremy. Golly, can they catch some fish?
Oh, and it's crazy for us because we're doing the catch, record, release, and we have to look at the pictures of these just huge fish that are going back in the water on two different bodies of water this weekend, and I can't wait to see what's happening. So what happened on day one of Leech Lake?
Well, it was absolutely pandemonium. AIM Weekend Walleye Series, Warrior Boat, Highway 3 Marine Open. Leech Lake, July 11th. We were coming out of Chase on the Lake Resort, all the way tucked up in Walker Bay where a lot of the fish were coming from. My first place team, Tom Wynn and Nate Wolski, they put it all together on the first day. Hey, guys, welcome to the wrap.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Coming off that fresh win, man.
Yep. Still can't believe it.
It's a rush.
Yep, it is for sure.
So what's the unique thing Fan Nation needs to know about you guys right there?
Just a couple weeks ago, I'm out fishing. I usually fish on the Bassmaster circuit, and all of our tournaments this year were rescheduled, and because of COVID and because they were rescheduled, it didn't fit my work anymore because they were just piled together back to back to back, and I had to put on tens of thousands of miles. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it this year. And I'm out fishing in the area, and somebody said, the guy I was fishing with, he's like, hey, I heard there's a tournament sometime close nearby, coming up pretty soon. I'm like, all right. So I went home that night and just Googled Leech Lake tournaments, and then you guys came up, and I'm like, oh, there's availability. So I signed up, did it, got in, and basically I caught walleyes before, but they were always like my nemesis. Like I'd go out on a weekend to relax and catch some walleyes. Couldn't do it, and then, but last year I got the Garmin Life Scope, and it taught me a lot with bass. Like I'm able to go look at structure, I'm able to look at weed lines, I'm able to look and just see what fish relate to. And, us bass guys, we stand on the front. So I'm looking for this rock, and then I'd find it. And not all the time in deep water, you would see a fish, but I would cast like a Ned rig with a plastic Bizbaits worm on it, and cast it out there. And then when it got down to like 2 or 3 feet above that rock, or it could have been a stick, it could have been a log, you could see the fish rise up to it. Whether the fish ate it or not, it's a whole different story. But I went and looked for structure, not structure meaning a hump or a point, but a stick, a log, a rock.
Something that's going to hold them. Just something that would hold that fish.
Just something, because bass and walleye, I'm learning, are very similar. They like to have something that makes them feel comfortable. I spent 4 or 5 days before the tournament scanning, using my life scope to actually see the size of some of these fish. And I never made one cast. I never had one rod on the deck the entire 4 or 5 days before tournament, because I'm like, I could see these fish. I know they're there. Why do I want to sore mouth them before the tournament? Because that could be that fish that wins it for me in the tournament.
Isn't that interesting? Because a lot of people will have to force themselves into making sure they're the right fish by casting to them and catching them. And big fish just don't take pressure that well. They get sore mouthed 1 time, 2 times, and they'll be gone. They're just not going to play with you anymore.
And they're big for a reason.
It's interesting because I got my first whack at live scope this year in the spring, and I love to ice fish because I basically have time to do it. And having a Vexilar on there or having a Garmin in the shack and it's flashing and you can watch that lure and the fish comes up to, I got a chance to do it on the open water this year. And yeah, Nate, this was your first walleye No, this was your first tournament period, wasn't it?
Ever. Yeah.
Ever.
Yep. Yeah, it started out with a bang. We got down to the boat. The minnows were mostly belly up. So then we had a few left. So we headed out. We got partway across the lake, and Tom noticed the electronics weren't working, so we had to reset all that. And then went to put the trolling motor down when we got across the lake, and
after check-in, we put the trolling motor down.
The hinge broke on that, and at that point I looked at, well, we're pushing the panic button at the electronics. Right? We got that rebooted. Then the trolling motor thing happened, and I'm like, dude, somebody totally ruined your boat last night, I swear. So it started out pretty bad, and then he's like, I'm like, well, it can't get much worse, so we might as well just win this thing, right? and then we get fishing. First cast, he catches a 25.5 inch or whatever it was walleye.
Then I knew it was going to be bad.
Very first
25
cast.
and a quarter. 25 and a
Okay,
quarter.
there you go. Anyway, then he's like, dude, this is bad luck. You realize that, right? I said, well, you see how the day started, so whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it went good. It was a lot of fun. Got some big northerns too. Yeah. So
You guys had quite the day out there. You guys registered a 25 and a quarter and a 27, then a 25 and 3/4 inch fish. And just because you threw up a pair of 27 and a quarters at the end of it, just to drive, you had about a 2-pound win out of the bunch. So hey, you really put it to the boys out there.
right.
Yeah.
The last 2 big fish were caught in the last half hour.
Oh man.
Yep.
27 inch.
I told him, I'm like, if we get rid of this 21, we could have a check. We might get a check. And I said, we will get a check, I think, if we get rid of this 21. And then literally I hit this spot, couple casts in, catch the 27. There's 8 or 10 boats around. And so then we catch it, measure it, literally put the trolling motor up with his help because it was broken.
Right.
And then we go to another spot real quick, and then didn't catch anything there, but we caught it, left. We're getting all kind of looks after we left, but we left, and then we came back there. Like literally, we were pushing check-in, and so I said, if we get rid of this 23, we're in good shape. And so we went back to that. You
said we got it in the bag at that
point. Okay.
He was pretty confident.
I did. If we get rid of the 23. Yeah. So we went back to the same spot, and there's 8 or 10 boats there just 20 minutes before that. Everybody was gone. And then so made a couple casts, caught it, and I'm sitting there taking my time, giving the fish time to come up and all that, and just at the same time looking down at my electronics, watching the time, see it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it was a close one, but 7 fish that day, but they were the right ones. So
that's usually what it takes to win. They've got to be the right fish. Well, you guys cleaned up pretty good this weekend, because it looks like you guys are going to take $9,000 for a first place prize. Not only that, you're going to take first place in the side pot. You're going to pick up some extra, I think your Garmin, your total Garmin. So you're going to be the Garmin win. Yeah, you guys did okay for your first walleye tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
About 11 grand.
Yep. And then, we're gonna we can't complain. It's still not sunk in really, but just today we signed up for the next tournament. So we're gonna Yep, we're gonna see you guys up there. So
awesome first day on the water by the winners. It was their first walleye tournament. But let's talk to second place, because these guys have been around for a little while. Hey, I'm here with Scott Schultz and Chris Peters out of Minnesota. They fished the AIM Weekend Walleye Series, Warrior Boats, Highway 3 Marine Open on Saturday, July 11th with us, and took second place with a great catch of 36.82 pounds. You guys, that was a great start to the weekend for you guys, hey?
Yeah, it was. I was just happy to get 5 cards on, or 5 fish on the card. It was tough pre-fishing.
Was it? How many, did you think you were going to be able to get 5 fish on the card when you went out in the morning?
Not really.
Chris, you're back there. You 2 maybe?
We really struggled pre-fishing. We really did. I don't know, when we went out and right away in the morning, we were trying in an area with, the creekers and that, we couldn't get nothing going. So then you start jumping around and looking and trying other things till something hits.
As I said to an interview a little bit earlier, I says, I'm going to be talking to guys that are a little bit older and a little bit grayer than you, that have an old bag of tricks that they're going to be reaching into. And they obviously reached into that bag this weekend, because not only did you guys take second on Saturday, you guys took fourth on Sunday as well. What did you guys do? How did you do it?
We pulled spinners. We only had 6 bites on Saturday all day long.
Yeah, for 36.82 pounds. You had 6 bites. You threw out an 18 1/4 inch fish to stack your card with 23 to 28 3/4 inch fish. Were them suspended fish? Were they on the bottom?
Yeah, it was on mud. It was on a break.
Okay.
They were halfway up the break. You mark them down there, they're all over the place, but you just couldn't get them to bite.
Using bottom bouncers, or were you using inlines, or
Bottom
waiting? Yeah.
It seemed like if we pulled up that little bit to get more off the bottom, then we started getting northern, so go back down.
Oh, you had to deal with the muck and the mess and everything else, dragging them right in the dirt, eh?
Right.
Well, there's nothing the matter with that. It's always a good time. And, couple the 2 checks together, as you guys told me on Sunday morning, your wife had already spent years, Chris. By the time you guys got home on Sunday, they must have known this already, too.
Yes, indeed.
Well, guys, thanks for visiting the Wrap tonight. I'm sure everybody out there is going to get a kick out of it. They'd like to hear what happened out on the water this weekend. And are you guys going to be fishing Winnie with us?
Yep, I'm going up next weekend, start pre-fishing.
Awesome. Well, maybe you'll be on the Wrap again in a couple weeks.
I hope so.
That was some pretty exciting fishing on Leech Lake for day 1. And to win your first walleye tournament ever, that's pretty cool. Meanwhile, in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, the scuttlebutt was that it was going to take 30 pounds to win the Warrior Boat Mild to Wild Open out of Woodland Resort. Well, that's true. It took 30 pounds. And Team 30, Spencer and Jimmy, went out and they won it with 42.87 pounds. Spencer, what was it like out there on the water?
It was just one of those days, everything came together perfectly. We had a couple big fish there in about a week earlier, and we just never went back. Devil's Lake, when it's really calm, that's what I like. I like when it's calm. I like to bobber fish. A lot of guys like to pitch shallow, and when they're pitching shallow and it's calm, it's very hard to get them. Those fish, shallow fish especially, are so wind driven that I really prefer those flat, calm tournaments. When I saw the weather, I was really excited.
Well, and Devil's Lake was the very first calm tournament we've had this year in the AIM series, because I think the first day we were at 21 miles an hour at Garrison, and this one here, it was 2 to 3 miles an hour out of the north. So you got exactly what you were looking for.
I did. Yep. When it's calm, I end up doing very well. It's just easy to control, especially the bobber is what I like to do a lot. And it just seems to work much better. And I think I have a little advantage over the guys fishing shallow, just because it is such a wind driven lake.
I know in North Dakota we have this Devil's Lake versus Sakakawea kind of rivalry going on, and the fishing is completely different. What's it like sitting on a spot fishing with a bobber?
A lot of sandwiches. You got to have patience. I talk to a lot of guys who don't like to bobber fish just because it does take a ton of patience. Other than the tournament day, which was one out of the ordinary, usually you're fishing for 5 fish, right? They're big fish spots. They will come through. If we get 5 or 6 bites a day, that's what we're shooting for. And you just got to wait them out. So it takes a lot of patience, especially on Devil's Lake. But given the tournament,
what's something that you look for in a not just a big fish spot, but a fish spot where those fish are going to come through? Because there's timber and places to fish all over that lake. What makes one spot more important or specialer than another?
They just gorge on the freshwater shrimp. So when you can find a ton of the freshwater shrimp, then you're going to find the walleye, big, small, whatever. They're just going to be up in there, and you'll find some trees have shrimp just latched on, some don't. If you're on the trees and there's no shrimp in there, you're probably not going to catch anything because no walleyes aren't going to be in there. As far as finding the big fish, I've been on there so many times. You hit 100 spots, and you just learn, as the years go on, kind of where they're at, what they relate to, water temperatures, that sort of thing. So just a lot of experience on the lake.
Well, let's get into this bag. Everybody said it was going to take 30 pounds to win this thing. You didn't listen. You put 42.87 pounds in the boat. What's that like, catching that many big fish in one day?
It was crazy. We talked about it. We actually had 5 fish over 25 inches that we didn't even put on the card. Yep. It was incredible. They were 25 and a quarter and 25 and a half. And we had our smallest one on there, our last smallest one, I believe it was 26 or 26 and a quarter. So we didn't even put them on there. It was crazy. Our 6 through 10 fish were over 30 pounds.
So I think what's crazy about your card, I'm sitting here looking at it. You started out the day with a 20, a 25. And then what was it like scoring a 12 and a quarter inch walleye in the boat that day?
So I fished a lot of tournaments, and the minimum length is 12, and we caught the third fish. And I know how it goes. We could have not caught another fish the rest of the day, or only caught 2. And I have lost tournaments, second and third place in tournaments by hundredths of ounces. So one thing you do learn is every 100th of an ounce does matter and does count. So if it was within the top 5 at the time, I'm putting it on there.
You got a card full of big fish. You got a 29 and then a whole bunch of 26s. What was the technique that you were using to catch fish that day?
No, we were slip bobber fishing with leeches, 16th ounce Northland jigs. Northland Tackle makes a ton of awesome jigs. And then I just use a little bullet weight above that. So small jig. I like a very small jig so they can get it in their mouth. I'm not a plain hook guy. For some reason, I just don't seem to catch them as well on the plain hooks. So I just use a jig and a slip bobber, and it's a pretty simple technique.
Is there any tricks that you use to up your odds when you're fishing with those jigs?
Yeah, I will show you one thing. Just how we tie the jig, I think it does matter. I'll throw this in the camera. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it or not. But a lot of guys will tie the jig and they'll leave it like this. And then when it floats, the jig is going to sit like this. So when you set the hook, that jig has to come this way and end up. So it's almost like a 2-part hook set, and you're going to end up losing a lot of fish that way. If you take this and just slide it to the top, so now it's directly like that. So now the jig is going to sit completely vertical. So when you set that hook, it's going to come straight up versus having to come this way and this way. So just the way you angle that line right there is going to make a lot of difference in hook sets and catching the fish.
Well, and that's a great tip. What do you got for sponsors that help make this possible?
Yeah, so I really couldn't do it without Yamaha. They've been with me from, I don't know, for 10 or 12 years. They really support what I do in the kids fishing clinics that I put on every year. Obviously, this year's a little different with COVID. But yeah, they've been there since day one. Ranger Boats have been there a long time. Luther Family Buick out of Fargo Moorhead. They've supported me forever. Blackfish Gear, Optima Batteries, Mort Sport and Marine. They're out of Bismarck. That's where I get all the boats every year. Northland Tackle, the jigs I was using during the tournament are Northland Tackle jigs. They're phenomenal jigs. Vision Bank, Airwave pedestals. If you want to save your back, definitely use the Airwave pedestals. And then Offshore Tackle and their planer boards are phenomenal equipment.
Well, thanks for fishing with us. Thanks for putting on a clinic on how to catch fish. Thanks for the tip. And hopefully we'll see you at another AIM event here in North Dakota.
Yeah, sounds great. Appreciate talking to you.
Apparently our second place team didn't get the memo about 30 pounds either, because they brought in a 36-pound bag. Let's go see what they have to say. Hey, Brent and Nate, how was it fishing on Sunday?
It was a wonderful day. We had all of our fish that we weighed by 11:30 that morning, and we started the day off with the 25-incher. So it was a really good day on the water.
What's it like going out and catching a big fish just on your first fish on your card, 25 inches? That's pretty wild.
It was
a day for a good day and gets our confidence up.
Yeah, and you put 13 fish on the card, and you definitely had some upgrades that we're going to be talking about. What was the fishing like out there?
It was
fast right away.
Yeah.
It was fast and intense, and then it slowed down for a little bit, and then they picked up a few more.
So
then
what the
the afternoon was pretty slow. I think we only caught 1 or 2 fish in the afternoon. It was all in the morning.
Well, and that's pretty tough when you got a bag like you got here and it starts slowing down. What was the hot ticket for catching all those fish on Sunday?
We were slip bobbering with leeches.
So what's it like? Everybody talks about, cruising all over for tournaments and hitting lots of spots. What's it like going and finding a spot and sitting there all day and hoping that you can put enough fish to win a tournament?
Well, we knew this spot was probably going to produce a really big bag. I had a similar bag guiding the week before, and my clients had their possession limit, and I asked them if they wanted to go look for big fish, and we stumbled right upon them. So it was pretty rewarding.
Now, everybody wants to know what the hot ticket was, and we were talking a little bit earlier. What was the hot ticket for these fish?
Plain hooks.
Plain hook, yep. You had to have a plain hook and have it about 6 inches off the bottom. If it was on the bottom, they wouldn't bite it. If it was a foot off the bottom, they wouldn't bite it either. So it had to be right there.
So distance and a plain hook was the ticket to catching all those fish. And I know from personal experience, people don't like it when you tell them that the key is a plain hook. But I fish Devil's Lake, and I totally get and understand what that is. You guys went through some nice fish. You had a 22, a 24, and then sometime in the morning, you said you were done by 11. You put a 27-inch fish in the boat. What was that like?
It was pretty awesome. They were hooting and hollering.
Yeah.
And then what's it like having a 21-inch and then a 25 and another 27?
It was insane. It all happened within like 15, 20 minutes when we put those last fish on the card.
Oh, wow. So you were moving in the boat and taking a lot of good pictures.
Yeah. Yep. It was constant here.
I know personally it's hard looking at all these fish pictures and scoring them all because you're like, man, I wish I was out on the water. What do you like about the AIM format, guys?
That all them fish get to go back and swim.
Yep. And it just makes it, you can constantly get an upgrade. You don't have to worry about keeping 5 fish or 6 fish. You can just keep fishing and hope for the best.
Well, before we're done, do you got anything to say to your sponsors or the people that helped you make this tournament possible?
Yeah, I just want to thank the AIM format for coming back to Devil's Lake, and we'll be seeing you again, and Woodland Resort for hosting it.
Thanks to a couple of sponsors we have, Strummy Seed and Thirsties, for making this happen.
Well, awesome. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Holy cow, Fan Nation. Do you see that? They thought it was only going to be 30 pounds to win out there. They roll up over 42, a whole nother 36, and a 32 in the top 3. Unbelievable. Great scores. We had a second event on Leech Lake, the AIM Weekend Walleye Series Warrior Boats Musky House Marine Open. Let's go chat with the winners and see exactly what it took to win. And here, look who I found hanging around in the dark shadows of Walker, Minnesota. I got Chuck Hassey. I got Randy Topper. Guys, you got some stories because I've heard some of them already. How does it feel to be the champions of the second day out on Leech Lake this weekend?
Pretty amazing. I don't know if it's actually totally set in yet. Still kind of processing everything, really.
It's really hard when you start looking at a field of 102 competitors and the sticks that were in that field. And you guys threw up an amazing 40.07 pounds of fish, the big basket of the weekend to boot.
Yeah, it never seems to stop surprising every time you can even get ahead of one boat of these anglers, let alone end up out on top. And it's an amazing deal when it happens, when all the stars align and when you know it's your day. You really can't do it doesn't seem like you can do any wrong. And even if you do have a screw up, you back it up with something even better. So that's kind of what it seemed to happen to us.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but everybody at home, we keep beating around the bush on this thing. Everybody just says, I want to know what in the heck it is they did to extract the biggest fish. I'm looking at your card right here, and you guys put a 15.5-inch fish on your card. That was your last fish, your 5th fish, but you ended up with 6th fish on your card. You had 26s and 29s and 26s all day long. What are you guys doing different, or what are you even doing? Tell our people something out there. How are you guys extracting the bigger fish than everybody else? What's making you better?
I think we've learned how to get out of guide mode and just turn into grinders. It's we knew those fish were there. We knew the right fish were in the area. Both days we had 4 big fish on the card by 10 o'clock, and it literally took us the rest of the day. And Saturday we didn't get our 5th big fish. We had a couple guide spots that we actually rolled into late in the day just to get our 5th fish on the card, and then we'd go back to our main spot and just, stay patient. At times it was really tough, but we stayed patient and just waited for that right bite window to happen. And yesterday, fortunately, it came in the last 10 minutes. It's one of those things where you dream about, and we ended up picking a 15. I think we had a picture of a 12-incher on there, but we ended up replacing a 15-incher with a 26 or 26 and a half. I forget which one it was, but you probably heard us yell from across Walker Bay.
Explain to the people out there. I know what you're talking about, but explain to the people. You went from guide mode to grind mode. What's that mean?
Basically, guide mode is put fish in the boat. Everyone wants to say they caught a limit. And as guides, that's kind of your goal, is to put fish in the boat and a limit of fish in the boat. Everyone has high expectations. 3 people get in the boat, especially. Just take, for example, today, the people I had, this is their normal week to go to Lac Sewell. So their expectations are above everything else. Now you're on Leech Lake. Leech Lake has been a little bit of a tough bite, but they still have that expectation. So you do everything you can to put a limit of fish in the boat for them. It took us a little while through the years to, learn that isn't what tournament fishing is about. That's strategy, being patient, being confident, having a plan and sticking to the plan. And sometimes a guy can very easily throw your plan out the window in the first hour or two. But you find more often than not the people who, stick to their plan are the ones who come out on top.
And you two are maybe some of the best grinders I've been associated with over the last few years here. You guys have won some serious dough. You guys won some big tournaments, including the Graha. You've won the AIM National Championship in Bismarck by sitting and sticking to it. And the grind, being the grind on the biggest fish you guys can find, and you don't leave them. You guys sit on them until you make them bite.
It's so hard to do, especially my personality is rough because I'm a pretty high intensity person, and just I always feel like there's something better. And I think Chuck and I have learned to ground each other. This is our 3rd season together, and I feel like we've really started hitting stride. And it seems like if Chuck gets antsy, I can kind of think, we just seen 2 right here, or if I get antsy, Chuck will calm me down. And it is a really big deal. We've practiced these days. You know what you're supposed to do. You've found the right fish. And a lot of times in these tournaments, you get the little bit extra boat pressure, and these fish clam up a little bit. So you're waiting for these bite window that's narrowing up by 50% or better than what you've been used to in practice. So you just really have learned that, you never give up, and it's really tough to bear down and believe that they're going to happen. But, you almost have to just sit there and will them to bite. And like Chuck said, in the last 10 minutes, this is what stories are made of. We grinded, and I can't wait to get a bite and say you never give up. And that's exactly what we did. It literally happened in the last 10 minutes, or we would have been down in the middle of the pack somewhere.
You know, as you said, that's what dreams are made of. All you people out there, listen to what these guys got to say. You all come up, you start off, and you're going to come in gangbusters. These guys are guides. They've been at it for a long time. They've been at the tournament game for a long time, and it takes two good people in a team tournament to back each other up. So just to show you why you never take the foot off that throttle, in 10 minutes, they threw out a fish that weighed 1.17 pounds and put a fish that weighed 7.18 pounds on the card and won by a whopping margin of 0.12 pounds. That's why you never take your foot off the throttle, people. What'd you guys catch them on, chubs or leeches?
We caught them on a mixture of everything, but I mean, chubs were definitely the ticket. We're pretty fortunate. We do a lot of trapping of our own bait. We're not buying store-bought stuff most of the time. We're out there. I'm not personally, but Nate and Tyler, our teammates, and Randy, I know, has done some too. They're out there beating the bushes in the creeks and the streams and stuff, trapping bait for us, and that's one of the things I think we take for granted a little bit. Is, I know I do, is we always feel like we might have the best bait out of the entire field because most of it has been hand selected and hand picked within the last couple of days. So, you know, as far as an advantage or anything is concerned, that is one thing that I do believe helps us quite a bit. There's a difference between a red tail that you buy from your local bait shop that's been sitting in a tank for 2 weeks versus a red tail that's, you know, been trapped or actually caught out of a stream 2 days ago. So
still thinking he's going to get away someplace.
Yep, exactly. So
he's going to be more active
in that regard.
Anything else you want to tell Fan Nation out there before we go away?
Never give up. You know, that was kind of the slogan after the day. We did have our fifth fish bite. I was set up, just setting the hook, and Chuck was bit. He set his rod down to net my fish, and we got it in the boat. And he ran back to see if it was still there, and the line broke about halfway up the leader, and that ended up being a 29.25-inch fish. And if you kind of know what swims with 29.25-inch fish is more than likely a 29-inch fish.
Another 29.
And then after that, you know, we're sitting there thinking, you know, that was our fifth bite. How hard we worked for just 4 bites the day before, how hard we're going to have to work for 5 bites the second day after the fish kind of been harassed. And to not get into the dumps after that and be able to roll with the punches is huge for us. And I think it's a little bit of experience behind that between Chuck and I. I mean, if you can't let that stuff roll off your shoulders, and it gets in your mind, and it just compounds, and pretty soon you're just making all the wrong decisions. But you can learn to let that stuff roll off your shoulders and just get to the next bite. You're gonna be better off.
Guys, I look forward to seeing you in Winnie in just a few weeks. I think we're going to see you pretty high up in the standings as we approach the regular season qualifiers in the Yamaha Motor Corp Team of the Year point standings that come out on Friday. And I want to thank you for taking time to visit with me today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Denny.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Denny.
Well, that first place team had quite the story. Let's talk to the second place team and see what they have to say. Hey, guys, welcome to the wrap. You guys fished in the AIM Weekend Walleye Series Leech Lake event on Sunday this weekend. It was the Warrior Boats Musky House Open, and you guys did fairly well. You guys ended up in second place, just a few ounces behind your good buddies who did end up winning it. How did that feel to lose to your friends, guys?
It's like it feels every time you lose. The same. It's tough to take a loss, especially that close. It was tough. But it was a ton of fun. We were out there, you know, kind of fishing the same area. So I'm sure there's guys that'll tell you that they heard us doing a lot of hooting and hollering on the water because we were pretty pumped when we got our fifth fish. You know, bites was tough. We got the 5 right bites.
Well, and you guys started
it off. End of the day, we heard I heard Randy from about 350 yards away, and I thought, Oh boy, we might be in trouble.
You guys had a heck of a day. It wasn't anything prodding you guys, because I know on Saturday, you guys didn't do as well on Saturday as you did on Sunday, and you really came back with a vengeance, man. I've known you guys for 4 or 5 years now, and sometimes it just takes a little prod, and you guys dig your heels right in, and you guys get. I watched you for 15 minutes add up your scorecard out there, Tyler. In the past, you guys have missed some fish inches that you don't like to give up. Tell us why you're out there for so long, looking at all your fish.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's important because every quarter inch matters, and then this one it did. And, you know, we just ran into a situation where we just want to make sure everything was right on. You know, we only caught 5 fish, and they're all the right ones, or just shy of the right ones. Well, they're all the right ones. You know, obviously, like you said, Saturday's a little tougher for us, but we were fishing for a win. We weren't fishing for anything but that, really. And, you know, we had to look at our pictures really closely, and we made an executive decision on one where we couldn't quite see it touch the half-inch mark, you know. So we're really shooting for team of year. That's always been our goal since the get-go, and we haven't got there yet. We got second in that a couple of times. So we made that, you know, decision that it's not worth losing a whole 28.5-inch fish to sacrifice all those points. So, you know, and it couldn't have happened, I mean, any other way, really, you know, and we're happy that Randy and Topper got that W, or Randy and Chuck got that W, and, you know, we came right behind them. So all in all, it's always the right thing to do, play it safe in a lot of cases. So.
Well, and I bring that up because I've got the utmost respect for you guys, because you're always paying attention to what you're doing out there in the boat. Your cards are filled out right, and you know it's a good point to all the new teams out there. Don't push it. Don't lose that hole. Let's see, how big was that fish? You know, you guys put 5 fish on your card yesterday. Your smallest was 23.25, and your largest was 28.5. You lose any of them, and you're losing anywhere between 5 and 9 pounds of fish for a quarter of an inch. It just isn't worth it. Nate, how did you catch them fish yesterday? I mean, you had 25, 6, 27s, and 28s. How did you guys go about doing that?
Well, I mean, there's a few things we figured out other than, you know, just the normal, or we're rigging minnows. Well, yeah, we were, but there's other things involved that we figured out. You know, there was maybe 10, 15 boats around us all day long. We did. It seemed like we were the ones catching the walleyes, and like I said, we were rigging minnows and some leeches. But
the one thing we can discuss is, and this is very critical to our success, I feel like, was the fish that we were fishing individual fish a lot of the cases between the few different spots we had. And, you know, you drive over those fish, and then it's really tough to find them sometimes when they're individual fish chasing bait around all over the place. So, you know, driving over top and then utilizing Garmin Panoptics was a very, very large part of our success on day 2, and the 2 fish we caught on day 1. That's how we did it. You know, to be able to see them, track them down, put a bait in front of them was a very critical part of it.
That's very cool to hear. Great sponsor of ours, Garmin, and you're utilizing their Panoptics. They've really revolutionized the way that we go and we look for these fish.
Absolutely.
Nate Leininger, Tyler Wolden, another great finish. You guys are going to be forcing the top of that hand at the end of the year for Angler of the Year. I can see it coming.
Yeah, we hope so. That's our goal, shooting for Team of the Year, definitely.
Wow. 0.12 pounds to win the tournament over their teammates. That's insane, Denny.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I guess you could hear them squealing all over the lake. It's all about never taking your foot off that throttle, baby. You don't know what's going to happen. You got time to fish. You got time to catch.
Yeah, and speaking of not taking your foot off the throttle, what are you doing next weekend?
Well, I'm putting it back on the throttle. You know what I'm going to do, Fan Nation? I'm heading up to Oconto, Wisconsin. Beautiful Bay of Green Bay. We're going to have a doubleheader up there on the 18th and 19th of July. It's going to be a slugfest. The fish are turning on, and from what I'm hearing, they are big and hungry.
Oh, wow. And then the week after that, Denny, we have Partial Bay, North Dakota. And my phone is ringing off the hook with people that want to fish, and the fishing is just getting hot there.
I hear that's the jewel of the whole Skakoia system, right there at the apex of the arm.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to have bags in that 30, 35, 40-pound range yet again.
Well, I think that we're bringing a great schedule to the fishermen of AIM Weekend Walleye Series, don't you?
I absolutely agree. And what are we going to do next Tuesday, Denny?
I'm going to be right here, Jeremy, right here with Fan Nation on the rack.